All right. Well, one, thank you. Two, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, how many people have gotten some information that is valuable to you right now? All right. Yeah, in the room. Let's go. Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Awesome. Awesome. At home. Let's hear it. Let's see you at home. Wave. If you got value or inspiration out of anything that you're seeing right now. Awesome. Cool. That's what this is about. And we get to do this. And we get to grow from this. And we get to relate to other people about our experiences with this. And as we grow, guess what? We get to help other people. And that's the whole meaning of why we bring community and value and why you surround yourself with the right people. It's very important that we do that. How many people know one wrong person can ruin your entire day? Right? And what I'm learning and getting from the speakers right now is don't let 24 seconds ruin 24 hours. Okay? We all get the ability to choose the energy that we wish to create. And we also get the ability to allow that same energy that's reciprocated to affect us in a negative way or not. So let's continue to move forward a little bit. Huh? You guys still excited to be here? All right. Sweet, 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 sweet. I have to pull out my cell phone for this because I couldn't remember everything. So you have to forgive me for 1 second. But the next guy, I had the opportunity to witness speak live at Movement Maker last year in Nashville. How many people were there at that event last year? Let's go. I see hands waving. That's right. Absolutely. So guess what? This guy blew me away. And I'll tell you why in a second. But before I do, first, he is married with 5 children, ladies and gentlemen. He is catching up, which is pretty awesome. He also is the author of 2 best-selling books, which is great. He is the founder of Master Networks, one of the largest networking organizations in the US. And he told me to tell everyone he's not a doctor. But he is an expert nonetheless. So, ladies and gentlemen, do me a favor and give it up for Mr. Chip.
So it's always good when you get to follow 2 doctors, and I'm like, I'm not a doctor. So when he's like, put in your bio, I'm like, not a doctor. So thank you. It was just a joke between us, but I'm glad you read it. So, hey, I'm super honored to be with you. What's that? Hey, what's up, everybody? Oh, yeah, look at all the awesome people. So excited to be with so many of you that I recognize up here on the screen. Just good to be with you. First off, thank you for taking your most precious resource, which is your time, to be with me and to be with all of us. And I just promise you in the next whatever I have, I don't know, Bobby's going to tell me. Thank you. I will give you everything I've got. Fair? But here's what I'm going to ask of you. I'm going to ask you to do one thing really, really important. I'm going to ask you to not so much listen or write down the things so much that I say. It's less important what I say. It's more important what you hear. Does that make sense? It's more important what you hear. I have been able and been blessed, first off, blessed to follow 2 great speakers, but blessed to speak with so many people around the world. And the thing that I realized the most is that when I speak or when I've been around other speakers, it's more about what people hear. Because you probably got up today with something that you're like, I need something today. And so my prayer this morning was that you get that. You get the thing you're here to hear. Now, the other thing I know, because I'm going to go home and tell my kids I'm now a conductor, okay, is that kinesthetic learning is important too. So that's why I loved what you did. So what I'd ask you to do, for those of you at home and those here, would you take out something to write with? Because I'm going to ask you to write down a couple of things, and it's going to be different. And it's going to be unique for you. So I'd ask that you write that down. It's not a test. I'm not going to look at your answers. But I think what you're going to find by the time we're done is you're going to find something interesting that you've written down for yourself. And when we started this, by the way, how many of you have heard me speak before? Yeah, awesome. Anyone up on the, if you've heard me speak in the chat, raise a hand virtual. Okay, awesome. I have one ask if you've heard me speak before. If you hear a joke and you know the punchline that's coming, just don't say it out loud, okay? Just keep it to yourself. If you've heard me, so we have this, I have this dear friend who I love her. She is so dear to me. She was an employee, and she's our photographer at our events, and she has like the most energy. But she'll be taking photos, and she's near the stage, and she's rolling around on the floor getting like the best photos ever. But she's probably heard me speak 30 or 40 times. And she can't help herself because she's got so much energy. And I will be like on stage telling a joke, and I'm like, pause for that punchline. And then she's like on the floor, and she like blurts it out. And everyone in the audience is like, I'm like, I can't take you anywhere. So I love her. But so if you heard that, don't share it. So here's what I want to start with. This morning, Michael said it. Bobby, every speaker talked about this, and it's this word impact. Okay. It's the word impact. Now, I am working on my third book right now. It should be published early next year, and it's called The Impact Effect. And I've been studying impactful entrepreneurs throughout the world, throughout history, who are making an impact in the world. And I've seen some things that are very, very similar between all of them. Now, I want to take you back because where this book started was when my mentor called me and said, hey, I want to write a book. And I was like, awesome. He's like, no, I want to write it with you. So first thing you want to write down, if your mentor calls you and says they want to write a book with you, your answer is yes, thank you. So you go, yes, I'm in. All right. I'm happy to write that book. And so we started studying people, but I want to take you back to the beginning of that because it's a really important lesson. And if you hear nothing else that I say, it's this: get in the room where things happen and find a mentor. Okay. Find a mentor who's qualified to be your mentor. Somebody who's done the things you want to do or has helped others do that. This gentleman, when he came into my life in 2013, I had just started my company, Master Networks. I just started this. Now, I had just come off of owning multiple real estate franchises through 2009, 2010, 2011. Not a great business to be in at the time. And I had a lot of leverage against me and so forth. And so I ended up selling a part of that and leaving that business and starting my new business. So think about this, coming off of sort of, I wouldn't say failed business, but not a great success story. Then I'm starting something new. I remember when I went to my wife, and I'm going to leave you lots of little nuggets along the way. I'm hoping that I can speak to each one of your hearts today. But I remember going to my wife saying, hey, I'm leaving one business that isn't working. I have an idea. I want to start another one. Okay. Now here's the beauty of this. She said to me, she said, that's awesome. I believe in you. I trust you. But here's what needs to happen by this time frame. My friends, that's called an agreement. See, what I didn't understand in that moment is, and if any of you work with a spouse, a partner, a friend, whatever that relationship looks like, one of the things I've found over time in consulting is that often as entrepreneurs, we're so big thinking that when we share that with our partner or the person that's important in our life, we're always giving the big picture. And then when that's not happening, guess what happens? They're like, wait, you said this is, just be honest with where we are. So we set this agreement and we hadn't hit it yet. And I met Dave and I was like, Dave, I'd love for you to come to my office, spend a few days. He built 3 best-selling brands. And so he agrees, right? He agrees, makes an agreement, comes to my office. I pay him for the days. He's there. Now, when I tell you we had no money, like we had no money. So you heard me talk about this. We had windows that were like, the room was about this size that we're in here. And we had windows, but we had no blinds. We couldn't even afford blinds on the windows. And so throughout the afternoon, we're sitting on 2 folding chairs talking. Now, this guy's built 3 big, huge brands. And as we're having this conversation, the sun is beating down and we're just moving like 5 feet every 10 minutes, like down the room. And I'm looking, I'm going, the bathroom's there. And in about an hour, we're going to either be in the bathroom or we got to come up with a different solution. Like, I'm embarrassed. And during this time, you know, this guy I'm in awe of. Like, it'd be like any person you admire and hear says, I'm going to go spend 2 days with you and help you build something that's really big. And during that, I get a buzz on my phone. I get my phone call ringing. I look down, it's my wife. And so I excuse myself and say, hey, can I take this call? So I go outside and I answer the phone and she says, hey, I'm really sorry to bother you. So I'm like, you're not bothering me. She's like, oh, I know you're with Dave. I'm at the grocery store. Now, at this point, we had just had numbers 4 and 5. They were twins. So that's 5 and 7 years, like crazy math, but that's how it happened, twins. And she's got the twins and then my next one, and they're all in a cart. And then she's got another cart so she's pulling 2 carts, you know? And she said, hey, the cart's not working. And that pit in my stomach, like, oh man. So let me call you back. I look up online, and many of you heard me talk about this in both of my books. I remember in that moment looking at my phone and seeing $27 in my bank account. Now, if any of you bought diapers in any recent history, you can't even buy like 1 set of diapers for $27, let alone 3 and nighttime pull-ups and all the things they're doing, right? And so it was like hitting my stomach. And I said, just buy whatever you can for $27 and I'll figure out tomorrow. And there's just some really important moments in this because you might be having your $27 moment. Some of you had the opportunity to talk to prior to coming here on social media. Some of you in the lobby as we're here. And again, some of us are having a $27 moment right now. Some of us are in that. I just want you to know something. The truth of the matter is you're there because of decisions you make, which means the good news is you can get yourself out. You are not stuck there. And I remember having like, just God putting it on my mind, like, don't ever forget this moment. This will be part of a story. I never thought I'd be standing in front of people telling that. So if you're having a $27 moment, I see you. I get it. I still hate when I go put my debit card and it makes that same sound it used to make 10 years ago when it failed. Like, you know, it goes, and it's like, and I look at it in panic and it's like, says approved. And I'm like, why does it make that sound? I don't understand. Like, it's triggering for me. It just triggers me. And so like, I get it. Okay. I totally understand it. And I'm outside and I have to walk back in the room. And what's going through my mind is, I don't know how my wife's going to get diapers. Number two, I have to take Dave to dinner tonight. I don't even know how I'm going to pay for that. So I had to then call my parents and ask for money to take him to dinner. And then I walk in the room and he's like, you ready to change the world? How do you reconcile that? So some of you are in a room like right now going, I have a purpose and a calling to change the world, and I'm in a $27 moment. How do I juggle this? I see a lot of heads shaking. I get it. We're in good company. This is the type of people you want to be around. And so what happened in the next 10 minutes of that conversation is what I want to share with you, because it's what evolved for me and changed the trajectory of my life. It was the mentor looking me deep in my soul and saying, is this what you want to do? And I said, yes. And he said, good, then here's what has to happen. You have to learn to speak on stages in front of people because you have a message and you have to get it out. Now, what you don't know about me, some of you do, you've heard me talk about this. I'm very shy. Like, even just sitting there, I'm over, sorry, man, I was like sweating. He's like, is this guy, what's going on with him? I'm like, I'm nervous. Okay. But because I grew up such a shy, nervous kid, I was like, this is not something I can do. And then he said this, why not you? See, I thought I had all the answers. We were going to go hire a great speaker. We're going to get somebody to be the face of the company. He's like, why not you? So I ask you, why not you? If you have a purpose, you have a thing inside of you, what we always do because of self-protection is we try to find a way not to do it. It's like it's natural. So we go, it's not me. So I'm asking you, yes, why not you? Why aren't you the one that we're, world famous, talking about whatever it is? So as I started to go on this book with Dave, he said, I want to write this book about being a person of positive influence and making an impact in the world, because he has. I said, that's amazing. Let's do it. So we started writing it. About 3 years ago, about September, I'm on a Zoom call. You ever had a moment in your life where like something just stops you in your tracks and you're not even sure quite what it is, but you just have like, oh, that was weird. And I stopped, I got off the Zoom call and I pulled out my phone, and Dave was in the hospital. He'd had COVID and he was in the hospital. He'd been there about 2 weeks. And I sent him a text. I said, man, I've been hearing about your struggles. Sounds like you got a story to tell. Let's grab lunch when you get out. I just want you to know how much I appreciate your friendship and support. I love you. The man about double my age. And I hit send, and he sent me back a text. And that was it. I went to my kids' football practice that night. I was coaching their football team. And when I walked in the door, I got a message from a friend that said, have you seen Dave's post? I said, no. I got on Facebook and it said, Dave's final post. What he hadn't told any of us is he was not getting better and he was not going to get better. And he had made a decision to take palliative care that night and be done. And I'm so grateful for that moment that I was like, I'm going to tell this man how much I appreciate him. And so we never got to finish the book. And so me honoring his legacy is to me finishing the book, because we started it together, right? Yes, so that's what I'm going to do. So I want you to think about something. You are a person in a chain. You're not the end. This is what's hard. Like, we think, no, you're not the end. There are people, I already heard others talk about it. Dr. Faber, she talked about family and the things that came before. You're part of a chain. What are you doing with that opportunity to make the biggest impact in that chain that you possibly can? Because that's what's important. That's where the impact effect comes in. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do, and then I'm going to tie this together at the end when I wrap up. You're going to be like, wow, this is a really right turn. It is, but hang with me, okay? I'm trying to earn some trust with you to walk you through this. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to take out a piece of paper if you have one, or your phone or whatever you have, and I want you to write this down. Just go with me on this, okay? I want you to write down the names. This is the first part will be really easy. I want you to write your parents' name. Write your parents' names down. Like a left and right. Mom, dad, what's their names? Write their names down, okay? Take a second to do that. That should come pretty quick, okay? Now, I want you to write both their parents' names. You're building like a family tree, if you will, right? Write both their names down. These would be your grandparents. Okay. Now, once you've done that, I want you to take both of them and write both their parents for all your grandparents right there. So your great grandparents. Okay, I'm going to pause just for a second because I don't know what's happening online, but I can tell you what's happening in here is I'm getting heads shaking like, I don't know. Right? Let's just pause for this moment. Let's linger in this for just a second. Anybody online that you know 3 sets back, you know your grandparents? If you do, I'd love to hear. No, I see a lot of head shaking. That's it. That's how fast their legacy fades. So here's the question I want you to think about. How many of you could go back 3 generations? You know them? Got them? Okay, couple of hands. Take that thought, thumbnail it, pin it. We're going to come back to this, okay? Because I want to walk you through how you make an impact. There's 4 segments to this if you're taking notes. There's 4 segments to this. The first is the spirit of impact. The spirit of the impact, which is your calling, the thing you're called to do. Some of you are like, I'm still not sure what I'm called to do. I got up this moment, I'm just taking one step in front of the other. That's okay. Okay? It's the thing that is your purpose. Your purpose is it's where your passion and your proficiency meet. Where your passion and your proficiency meet. That's probably where your purpose lies. Okay? Because you could be, I'm super passionate and so forth about certain things, but I'm not proficient in it. It's definitely not my purpose. Okay? Make sense? So that's the spirit of impact. It's the calling, the thing that propels you every day to go. Everyone outside of me says, this is dumb. Why are you doing this? You and I had this great conversation, Clint, on the drive over, which I loved. You're like, I don't know, but I just know, right? And the world sometimes gives me a no, but God gives me a knowing. Like, that's just it. I know this is what I'm supposed to do. Then you just lean into it. So that's the spirit of impact. Okay. The next is the game of impact. See, once I know my purpose, now I got to go play the game. But it's really important to know the game I'm playing. There's this great scene in the movie The Founder about Ray Kroc, McDonald's. Anybody seen that movie? Yeah. I love that movie. Because depending how you see it, sometimes people see Ray Kroc as a hero or a villain. It's fascinating how that played out, right? But one of the things that changes the game is when he understands the game he's playing. See, everyone's playing what game? Making hamburgers. What game did he learn to play? Real estate, right? When Mr. Sonnenborn comes in and says, Ray, you're not in the burger business, you're in the real estate business. And all of a sudden he goes, right? Changed everything. See, some of us don't realize the game we're playing. And there's 3 pillars to this game, and then I'm going to walk you through the quadrants of it. There's the professional growth, right? The production of business. That's a game. That's the hamburger business, if you will, right? There's production. I've got to make money. I've got to make sales. I've got all that stuff. Then there's the personal development game. And many people, probably not in this room or online because we're here, but many people don't play that game. And if you don't, what you're going to find out is your level of success will take you to a level that your personal development will not sustain you at long term. Make sense? So for example, if I get to it 1 through 10, if I got to an 8 in my production, my professional growth, but my personal development is a 6, I will find ways to self-sabotage. I will surround myself with bad people, etc., and I will drop to a 6. It always happens. Just give it time. That's why this game is so important, to develop myself as an individual, as a leader in the way I show up. Make sense? The third is in the relational game. How am I showing up with people? You want to look at a skill set that I think is going to be one of the great separators in the next 10 to 20 years, especially with technology, learning how to play the relational game. Okay, makes sense? All right. So then let's talk about that in the game, the 4 quadrants of this. Now, I have nothing to draw. I have no visuals, so you're going to have to hang with me and draw this out, but you'll follow this. Create like a T, like 4 boxes, right? It's a T graph. Okay, we're going to create quadrants, 4 quadrants. I'm going to try to do this the way you're looking at me. So it'd be your bottom left. Okay, I'm going to give you all 4 of them, then I'm going to explain it. In that box, I want you to put the potential. This is the person we're going to talk about, the potential. Okay, this is really awesome that you're drawing it right in front of me because this will help me stay visually. Okay, the potential. And if you look at that left to right, kind of going bottom to top, that's your personal production. That's production game, right? So the higher we go up in that quadrant, the higher production. Okay, so that the potential. Then in the bottom right is going to be the pupil. The pupil. Top left is the producer. Okay. And then top right, love it. Top right, we're calling the player, the impact player. Okay. The player. So on the left-hand side, that's production, right? Professional growth. On the bottom right, that's personal development. Making sense? Your personal development. So let's talk about each of these because it's important to know where we are if we want to know where we're going to go. Sense? So what's the first one? Bottom left? The potential. The potential is the person who's starting something new. They're full of, no, potential. they're full of potential. No, they're full of potential. Okay? They're full of potential, right? They're the person that's super optimistic about everything. However, they often change different things. Okay? The reason being is they have not yet achieved a level of success and they have little to no awareness that there's even a personal development game. They don't even know it exists. They just need to get to the next level so they're focused on sales. Okay? That's the potential. Now let's move to the pupil. The next 2 I'm going to talk about, to me, in my experience of interviewing and researching this, are dangerous. They're only dangerous if you stay there. The pupil has a high level of personal growth, right? However, low level of production, meaning they come to every event, they sit on the front row, they have every notebook of every quote you've ever said for 10 years, they know everything about everything, but do very little. Yeah, they do very little. Do you know somebody like this? Yeah. They'll tell you all the answers, they know everything, but they haven't yet implemented. So being a pupil is important, but it's not everything. Okay? Now, let's go to the top left. This is the producer. This one is also kind of scary for them because here's what happens. They're very successful in production in their growth of their business. They have high income potentially. But this is an interesting one, and I asterisk this in the book. They have a perceived sense of influence. Perceived sense of influence. And here's why. Because the people that are surrounding them want that success. They want that growth. But they're typically very dynamic, not magnetic. Make sense? They're dynamic. They can say all the right things, and people are attracted to them, but they're not magnetic, so people don't stick and stay. And they turn and burn through a lot of people, and they can't understand why. It's very fascinating, some of the people we're writing about in this book, because you can see, once you see it, you see it. And you're like, oh man, that's a producer. Very little stick and stay. Then the player in the far right has high success in business, high awareness of their personal development and where it lacks and where it needs to grow, and high levels of influence. Okay? And that's the path where we all want to be. This is where they can then celebrate others. They can pour into others. Many people I see at the producer level, to go back to that for a second, is they want to then be coaches and mentors, right? Because I've achieved success. They haven't yet developed the personal skills to do that. And so I want to help you understand something as you walk away from this. And that is this. Is that as we go through the spirit of impact, which is your calling, the game, which I just laid out for you, then it comes to the point of impact, which is where do I actually show up and do this? I'm giving you a whole book in like 20 minutes, by the way. Okay. Okay. The point at which I do this is you have to filter. I talk about the frame and the filter. You're going to have to filter who you do this with. And you know how you do that? I love what Dr. Benjamin Hardy said. He's become a good friend of mine. I love what he talks about. Have any of you ever felt like no matter how hard you work, you're hitting a ceiling? Right? I have many times. I have one of the biggest ahas on this. He said this: it's not about breaking through the ceiling. It's about raising the floor. Because the floor is your standards. The floor is the thing you lift to break through. Because what we do is we say, well, I got this high, so if I just do more of it, I'll break through. No, it's actually about doing less. So here's what I want you to ask yourself. What will I no longer do? See, so many times you come to something like this and they'll say, all right, what are you going to do from here? And that's not bad. But I'd like you to make a list of what you're not going to do anymore. Because that's where the real work begins. Is the work you do when no one's watching, because that's your standard. It's easy to have a standard when everyone's watching. What's your standard when nobody's watching? That's where the real work begins. And I'll leave you with this on the, so that's the point of impact. The path of impact then is the professional, personal, and relational game. And I have levels of that. And I want to leave you with this one because this is really important on the relational game. The highest level of relational impact is celebration. And I want you to hear about this for a second. It's celebration. When you are at a level where you can celebrate others with nothing in return, we found that some of the most impactful people, they had a sense of how to celebrate others and put others up in their personal life and their professional life that was unmatched. It was phenomenal. And again, we go through examples in the book. It was really remarkable. So I want you to ask yourself, how am I celebrating others in the relational game that I'm playing? Am I celebrating those around me? If I have a significant other or a partner, am I celebrating them when nobody's around? Right? It's easy for me to send flowers to my wife, but do I talk her up when she's not around? How do I celebrate others? Because I want you to know something. There's no amount of success that you will ever achieve if you fail in the four walls of your home. It just won't happen. You will feel empty. Okay? I hope I've pushed some boundaries a little bit, because if you heard everything I said and you agree with everything I say, then I've done nothing to challenge thought. Okay? But that's where it lives. That's where this game is played. Now let's tie it all together. What is the impact you want to make in this world? What is the impact you want to make in this world? See, I have some non-negotiables in my life. There's not a lot, but there's a few, and they're non-negotiable for me. So tonight at 7:15, I will be walking on a football field back in Texas because I have a non-negotiable that I will be with my kids on their football games. Non-negotiable. Yeah, you don't have to, right? Yeah. I only get so many of them. You were talking about basketball with Michael. You only get so many. And I get to. So I'm going to get to be there. And I'm grateful for Michael making that happen. But those are non-negotiables, and those are the agreements that I've made. So now I leave you with this. Go back to the list you made. Your parents, your grandparents, great-grandparents. And I want to leave you with this question. How are you going to live your life so that in 2 generations from now, they haven't forgotten that you even existed?
Wow.
Because my friends, you can make the biggest impact in the world that you want. It's a choice. Go make an impact. Thank you.